My name is Lisa Gore. I'm chair of ANC 34G. And we have a pretty good agenda tonight. I want to thank in advance DPR for coming. Christopher Dyer, I see you on. Thank you. And Office of Tenant Advocates, Christopher Lucas, are you on? Hopefully he'll be joining us soon. Those are going to be our two. Christopher, was that you? There you are. Thank you for coming to join us. We'll also have a resolution that we'll be talking about OSSI bus transportation for children with special needs. We'll also be discussing our budget priority letter and testimony before the Committee of Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs for the 24 budget hearing, and our committee reports and ANC business. With that, I'll ask all the commissioners that are present. So we do have two commissioners that are out that will not be joining us. That's Commissioner Zeldin and Commissioner Gosselin, who have personal matters that they're attending to. We do expect Commissioner Lynch to be joining us sometime shortly. So for the commissioners that are here, we'll go around and we'll introduce ourselves, starting with myself. Again, I'm Lisa Gore. I am the commissioner for Single Member District 01, which is Barnaby Woods and Hawthorne. My ANC single member district spans Oregon Avenue to Western Avenue, past Pinehurst Circle to Upland, back over towards Tennyson and one side of 31st Street, down back towards Pinehurst Tributary and Beach Street, and back up Oregon to Western. Thanks for coming. Commissioner Nash, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I am Commissioner James Nash for Single Member District 03. It's bounded on the south and west by Broad Branch, and it's bounded on the north by McKinley, over to Nebraska, up a block to Northampton, over to 27th and beginning with Utah, and then to 27th is where it's bounded on the east down to Broad Branch.
Thank you. Commissioner Sherman?
Good evening, everyone. Bruce Sherman. I represent Single Member District 02, which is bordered on the south by Military Road, on the east by Oregon Avenue, on the west by Utah Avenue, and it extends up to Tennyson, runs over to the 31st and up to 31st, and I have the east side of 31st Street. And the district then continues up to the Chatsworth development, Unicorn Lane, and just past that, Oregon Knolls, and 3 or 4 other properties just past that. So that's the northernmost extension. That's the district. Glad to be with everyone tonight.
And Commissioner Ferguson.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Zach Ferguson. I'm the representative from District 07, which is a nice triangle. It's more or less Military Road on the north, Reno on the west, and Chevy Chase Parkway on the east. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, with that being said, just in terms of housekeeping, if you all would like to comment on the agenda item, please use the raise your hand function. It should be down at the bottom of your screen in the reactions area. We are on a meeting mode, which means everybody's screen is displayed, which also means everybody's audio is displayed. So if you can, please keep yourselves muted unless you are speaking. I'll be serving as host, as well as I made Zach Ferguson co-host. Last meeting, we did have 1 or 2 Zoom bombers. So if that occurs in this meeting, please be patient with us. We did reach them and get them ejected fairly early. I also see that Commissioner Peter Lynch has joined us. Peter, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, everybody. Apologies for being late. My name is Peter Lynch. I am the commissioner for SMD 05, which is basically from Legation up to Chevy Chase Circle along the east side of Connecticut and then over to Broad Branch. Happy to be here. Good to see everybody.
Okay, so we will have start out with commissioner announcements. Commissioners, do you all have any announcements? Zach?
I do. I can start.
Yep, you can go on.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that our district COVID centers are closing at the end of the month. So just in a few days, these are the, the kind of the one-stop shop for vaccines, masks, testing that we've had through the pandemic. So they close at the end of the month. I understand why they're closing. I think it's sad to see them go, but I just think the employees who staffed those COVID centers were incredible and really served us well during the pandemic. The DC government is telling you, you can find COVID vaccines at retailers and pharmacies. Vaccines.gov is a great resource. I'll put that in the chat. And there's also a CDC site that can help you find no-cost rapid testing. We still have 300 Americans a day on average dying of COVID. So it's still with us, albeit not as much as before. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? So I do have one announcement.
I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. Hang on 1 minute. Let me get to it. This is from Christian Finero, Senior Community Engagement Specialist, Ward 3, DDOT. And he was reaching out to let the commission know that DDOT will be hosting their Broad Branch and Spring Valley Stormwater retrofit project public meeting. And that will be on Wednesday, April 19th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And it will be a WebEx meeting. I'll put Christian's information and this information in the chat. The work will help improve the watersheds with green infrastructure to include bioretention facilities, permeable pavement, and tree planting. So I will put his information in this blurb in the chat for anyone that wants to reach out to Christian and get information on that. And then another community announcement, the ANC recently on its webpage published a section called Submit Your Public Feedback Comments for ANC agenda items for our meetings. And we did have for this meeting a public comment from a resident on Upland Terrace, Bernadette Gibson, about the E6 bus. So I believe the commissioners, you all have seen the comment. We should at some point discuss offline how we want to address it. I know Commissioner Sherman offered some suggestions, but I just wanted to let the community know that, and I will also put the link to the submission page in the chat so community members can still publish their comments and get to know where that page is located and to use it. If you do submit comments, they go to the entirety of the commission, which I think is great. Sometimes we get comments that are individually submitted to commissioners, which is great as well. But it's helpful when the entire commission knows some of your issues. That way we can act on them as a whole. Those are my comments. Commissioner Sherman, then Commissioner Lynch.
I've got three quick announcements. DDOT has distributed flyers to residents on Utah, indicating that they do intend to do repaving of Utah from Newlands to Kanawha and then from McKinley to 27th. They sent those flyers around 2 weeks ago and said that they would start the repaving next week, which would have been last week. That repaving has not started, and we haven't yet got the official announcement, I think, Lisa, from DDOT about that. But some residents have been looking for that repaving to start. So I've notified everybody in the community here that when we know, we'll let them know. There is also another DDOT project, prospective project, which is the elimination of the slip lanes at Tennyson and Utah and 32nd in Utah. And on Friday of this week, our DDOT project manager, Joelle Burgard, will be visiting the site at 4 p.m. this Friday, March 31st at 4 p.m. for any residents who want to join then to walk the site, hear from Joelle. I have been in touch with all of our residents on my side in the area, and a number of them have already submitted comments to Joelle Burgard about their concerns and their actual praise for the work that is planned. So that's coming up on Friday. Finally, on April 4th, Tuesday, and starting on April 4th, and then on the first Tuesday of every month, I will be holding an hour-long Zoom listening and learning session for single-member District 02 residents. This is to provide additional time for people to ask questions, be informed on community issues, make their comments, talk to one another, and so forth. So that'll be coming up, debuting on April 4th. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Lynch.
Thank you, Chair Gore. Just want to congratulate artists Kirsty Little and Becky McFall, who were in the Washington Post recently for an art project that is on Wisconsin Avenue. Take action right now. I'll put the link to the article in the chat. Check it out. Carrying on a tradition of calling out something positive in the neighborhood at the start of each meeting. And then also, as I just saw, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton has an art competition for DC high school students that came out recently, and you can enter to win your artwork to get into the Capitol, and that's going through April 14th. And then on top of that, Art Sound Language, the new shop that opened up on Connecticut Avenue, they've got some concerts coming up, so check out what they're doing. It's great to see all this creativity in the neighborhood. So that's all I got. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, community announcements. And I know we have, let me try to see if he's online. Can folks raise their hands for community announcements? Any of the Mokers? I know we have also Mr. Walsh.
I'm here.
I saw, I believe, Matthew. Tim, how are you? Would you like to go first?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hi, how are you? Thank you, Chair Gore, other commissioners, how are you? For those that don't know, my name is Tim Walsh. I'm the owner and operator of the Avenue and Capital Crab restaurant on Connecticut Avenue, 5540 Connecticut Avenue. I recently was proprietor of Arugula, and then we put in Capital Crab there in 2019, and then obviously the pandemic. We were able to sell that lease to Opal, and I think they're doing a great addition to the neighborhood, and I think they're doing a great job there. So fast forward to now, we recently signed a lease for 5532 Connecticut Avenue, the former diner space. Really don't want to get into the weeds about it right now. It just is it's a project that's still in motion. I know they put a raise permit in, and I'm sure people have some concerns about that, and I'm happy to give you guys my email address and have you guys, speak to me firsthand about the project. A little too early to really get into concept or anything like that. The property itself is in disrepair and unfortunately is a haven for the rodent issue that we have in our neighborhood. And that's sort of our main concern right now is the eradication of that. That's basically where we are with the project, but I just want to let you know that there is someone that's on the lease. It's myself, and that we want to turn that into a very nice green open space. Open air would be the concept of whatever goes in there. And we want to work with the community, especially Chart, who we have a great relationship with, about decorating this hopefully wonderful outdoor space.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. And I'm sure as the project moves along, you'll be back before the ANC and the community to answer questions.
Absolutely. I just wanted to let everyone know sort of where I know the application sort of prefaced all of this, but it's been about a year in the working, trying to get this done. The landlord, I should say, not a neighborhood person. They own, millions of square feet around the country, and sort of having them hone in and actually worry about what this abandoned property was doing for the neighborhood took a long, long, long time. So they're now on board with helping the optics and making sure that this eyesore and den gets taken care of and gets taken care of properly and efficiently.
Great. Do you mind putting your email address in the chat in case neighbors contact you?
Absolutely. I mean, it's trying to be as transparent as possible, because obviously this will be a conversation that's beyond myself and the landlord. I've been a part of this community for a while now, a resident for 13 years, and then a business owner for the last 7. That it is as important to me as anything right now, that this project go as well and smoothly as possible.
Great. Sounds good.
I will put my email, and please feel free to reach out to me. Please stop by the restaurant if anyone wants to have a conversation. We are not even at the point really of schematic or any sketches. There are some mood boards. That's about as far as it is right now, but I'm happy to share with anyone that wants to speak with me.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Cherith. I appreciate the time.
Yep,
Thank you.
no problem.
Commissioners.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Lee, you might have had your hand up first, and then we'll go to Raisha.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gore. I'm Lee Miles with the Office of Councilmember Fruman, and just have a few updates for you from our office. The first is that the councilmember introduced the Rent Stabilization Protection Amendment Act of 2023 on March 20th. This bill applies rent stabilization protections like controls on rent increases, units rented to housing voucher recipients, ending the current exemption. The bill, which was crafted in consultation with the Office of the Tenant Advocate, we believe is one critical step in addressing DCHA overpayments to landlords, which I'm sure many of you have been reading about in the recent articles, and creating a voucher system that really serves all residents without jeopardizing existing rent stabilized housing. You can find more information about the proposed legislation, including a one-pager highlighting key provisions, on the council member's website, and I will drop a link for that in the chat shortly.
Great.
The council is also in the midst of budget oversight following the submittal of the mayor's proposed fiscal year 2024 budget last week. While recognizing that current economic conditions, of course, make this a challenging year for the city and budget, Councilmember Fruman remains convinced that the budget process can expand opportunity for all residents. A few things that he had put into his budget request that he was heartened to see in the mayor's proposal include that school level budgets begin to reverse the serious cuts presented in the initial budget, though we must do more to fully fund our schools. It adds nearly $8 million in DGS funding to aid in addressing the backlog of school-related work orders and ongoing maintenance issues. It expands access to the child care subsidy program and will increase the number of families who can afford child care, the cost of which are often a crushing burden. And it continues to make investments in sustainable multimodal transportation in Ward 3. While these investments are welcome, Councilmember Fruman will be seeking ways to improve the budget to ensure a fair recovery for all Washingtonians. You all can make your voice heard by participating in the budget oversight process. And I know the commission is going to be talking about that tonight, but residents can testify at the agency hearings, and you can find more information about that process and how to register on the council website. Again, I'll put a link in the chat in a moment. And then lastly, I just have a few constituent services updates. As I think Derek Johnson put in the chat, Chairman Mendelson is going to be hosting an in-person tax town hall on March 29th at 6:30 p.m. And that's actually going to be taking place at the Chevy Chase Library, as Chevy Chase and Hawthorne are the two neighborhoods with the highest assessment increase in Ward 3. So thank you to the chairman for hosting that at the Chevy Chase Library. Councilmember Fruman is going to be joining Attorney General Brian Schwalb for a Ward 3 listening session on Tuesday, April 4th at the Tinley Friendship Library. You could have an opportunity to learn more about the work of the OAG, share any concerns you might have, and discuss ways to collaborate with the office. Space is limited because it is an in-person meeting, so you should RSVP by noon on Monday, April 3. And of course, I'll put a link for that in the chat as well. And then lastly, our office is always here to help you in getting any support you might need. Please fill out our constituent services form if you need assistance accessing government or community services. And again, a link in the chat forthcoming, or feel free to call our offices. We definitely are here to help you out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee. Those are great updates, and I'll definitely be in. I don't know if you're going to be able to stay throughout the meeting to listen to our budget letter. If not, I'll definitely be in contact with you all to see if we can get the council member on a informal session with the ANC to discuss our priorities for Ward 3 as well.
I will be on for hopefully all of the meeting, but of course, welcome the opportunity to continue that conversation afterwards.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Rayisha and then Matthew.
All right. Good evening. Okay, so I have questions. I mean, not questions. I have announcements for DC Plug. My name is Rayisha Corey. I'm with DC Plug, and I actually do work on the Broad Branch project also. So I did want to talk about that as well. So we have an outage coming up on the 30th of the month, just in a couple of days, and we have a scheduled outage as a part of the DC Plug project. We are near the end, but we're doing the portion of the project where we're taking the lines from overheads to underground. The residents who have received a notification, there's about 16 residents for this outage, will be the only residents impacted. And again, it's only about 16 houses. I just wanted to let you guys know about that. If you have any questions, I'll leave my email in the chat regarding DC Plug and those outages. There is a few more outages scheduled, but they're not approved yet. So we have probably about 3 more. And if we do get approved for early next week, then you guys will receive notification later on this week. We always try to give you all 72 hours in advance. I'm just gonna switch gears real quick. For Broad Branch, we do have a community meeting coming up, like you said. And I just wanted to let you guys know that we're really looking for feedback from the community at that meeting. So I really want to encourage everyone to show up at the April 19th meeting. Following that meeting, there will be a walkthrough in the community on April 26th. So we'll do a kind of a field day and walk through and really identify places where you guys want the work to be done. So I just wanted to talk about both of those projects. I'll leave my information in the chat. You can email me about either one, and yeah, any questions also.
Thank you. Risha, I have a question. The 16 houses, where are they located?
So they're located, most of them are in Oregon. There's one on Western Avenue, and there's one on Daniel Road, but they're between Daniel Lane and Western Avenue on Oregon Avenue, that block right there. And then there's the home on the corner, and then there's another home on Daniel Road.
Got it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Great. Matthew?
Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a good day. My name is Matthew Barclay. I'm Ward 3 Mokers for the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services, 202-340-7853, and matthew.barclay@dc.gov. All right, some announcements. Fire and EMS are having a recruitment webinar, Cadet Class 26 recruitment webinar, Thursday, March 30th from 6 to 8 p.m. Come and learn about the selection process, what it's like to be a fire and EMS cadet from past graduates, and you'll have the ability to ask questions. So that's cool. Mayor Bowser on Thursday, March 30th from 11 to 12 will be announcing her budget priorities in relation to pickleball at the Turkey Thicket Rec Center, 1100 Michigan Avenue Northeast. So come on out and play some pickleball with Mayor Bowser. Should be fun. It will be the first time I ever played pickleball. So, all right. Also, the Capital City Little League opening pitch or opening season will be April 1st, this Saturday, at the Chevy Chase Recreational Center at 9:30 a.m. And Mayor Bowser will be giving some remarks, and please come on out and have a good time. Today at 11 a.m., Mayor Bowser and the State Superintendent, Dr. Christina Grant, announced investments in the 2024 budget to showcase early learning programs. Some of these investments include raising the eligibility of childcare subsidy from 250% of the federal poverty line to 300% of the federal poverty line. Also, $6.8 million toward the Special Education Enhancement Fund. Part of this fund will be awarded to development facilities with capacity to serve infants, toddlers, school-age children with disabilities and developmental delays. I'll drop links in the chat. Also, DPR, which I'm sure Chris Dyer will be telling you more information on these things, but there's a $3 million, they have $3 million in funding for organizations providing recreational programming to DC's youth. And these applications will be accepted on an ongoing basis until Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. So if you are a recreator and you'd like to create opportunities for people, please go to recforallgrants.splashthat.com. Also, the summer camp lottery program is open. Please go to dprsummercamp.com to learn more. Also, expanded hours at recreation centers are occurring. Today, it was the first 8 recreation centers that are going to be expanded from 8 hours to 15 hours in the weekday, and then on the weekend or on Saturday, they'll double from 4 to 8, and that is on these recreation centers are currently Columbia Heights, Emory Heights, Turkey Thicket, Edgewood, Deanwood, Kenilworth, Rosedale, and Berry Farms. And they'll be expanding to 37 recreation centers or more recreational centers in April. DPW has started street sweeping. So if you have a car on that side of the street, you will get a fine. DSLBD, Department of Small and Local Business Development, has their robust retail citywide grants open until April 10th at 2 p.m. So if you're a DC-based retail business, please take advantage of that grant. Also, DC Water is doing a temporary switch in the drinking water disinfectant from chloramine to chlorine. So you might notice a slight difference in the taste of your water. And as always, you can get a free anti-theft device at the MPD district if you own a 2011 to 2021 Hyundai or Kia vehicle. And I think that is all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Oh, and Derek Johnson is here. So
Yep,
I let
Derek.
Hi, how are you all doing tonight? Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Matt, for the epic announcements. Think you covered just about everything, but what I will do is just add to one point to expound upon the idea that it is budget season, and I know we'll be talking about the budget request letter later. However, I did want to note that the mayor is being very intentional this year in dispatching her directors and deputy mayors across all 8 wards, and including this ANC. So while we don't have confirmation of who particularly will join, one of the next meetings, either in April or May, we will have someone here to discuss the mayor's overall budget, but also discuss whoever the particular director's budget might be and how it affects the neighbors in ANC 3G/4G. So I want you to be on the lookout for confirmation in the coming weeks, commissioners. So I appreciate the time, and I will let you all get back to the agenda.
Great, thank you. And for the Mokers, I don't know if you all have been asked to take things back to the mayor, but you know, she had the meeting with the ANCs a couple months ago. I'm hoping that she will continue that. And maybe, when I talked to her about it, I suggested maybe semi-annual or something like that. But if you do get an opportunity to take feedback to her, I would really like to see her continue with that. I thought that was very helpful. And especially coming behind performance oversight season and budget testimony season, it would be a good time to have to renew that conversation with her about priorities.
No, thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. So commissioners, I neglected to have us vote on the agenda, and we actually got a request for an agenda change in the chat. So do you all have any additional items to add to the agenda?
No.
Nope. Do you all mind if we have Christopher Dyer go before Christopher Lucas?
Sure.
Okay, that would be my one agenda request. All those commissioners in favor of the adopted agenda as changed, please raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-0. Thank you so much, and sorry about that. Okay, so slight change in the agenda. We're gonna, per request, Christopher Dyer go first before Christopher Lucas. Mr. Dyer, you are up, and thank you so much for coming to speak to us today.
Thank you. Can you allow me to share my screen, please?
Yep, I will make you a co-host.
And I appreciate Mr. Lucas letting me go first. I have a event to attend tonight that I did not have when I first attended, so I greatly appreciate this. I will not say who, but it involves someone from New Jersey, and I'll leave it at that. Again, I really
I think we know.
I mean, I'm not going to say we're
might
born
think
to run or
somebody-
anything, but I really appreciate you guys having me. Also, Commissioner, thank you for inviting me and letting me come. I know that this is the busy season, so I'm going to be relatively quick because I know the more important thing about these presentations is for the commissioners to actually ask me questions. And I'm kind of bummed that Zeldin's not here because I know that he would have at least 5 or 6 really exciting questions for me, but then
Yeah.
I will not, and I want to thank you all for your leadership. And so for the new commissioners, and for those of you who've never heard, I'm Christopher Dyer. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for the Department of Parks and Recreation. You will probably have gotten at least 25 emails from me in the last 3 months so far. I appreciate you guys forwarding that information. And for those at home, I just wanted to remind everyone that we are the #1 park rank system in the country. We host programming in events year-round in 244 sites across 900 acres. And we have upward of 100 plus different capital improvement projects in our system. Also, piggybacking on what the mayor with our friends in Moker said, the Chevy Chase Community Center's hours will change on April 10th from 9 to 9 on weekends, on weekdays, and then from 9 to 5 on Saturdays. So that's going to happen at the community center. That will be in the part on the 12th, on the 10th. If you did not get the press release that the mayor issued last week, it's all detailed there, and I will make sure that you see that as well. But I wanted to give you that little good news. Anyway,
That's great.
we have a bunch of websites that are, for those of you who are interested, that I also share. And I'm going to drop this in the chat at some point. The first is dpr.events, is a list of all upcoming events at DPR. DPRprograms.com has information on all programs, including how to sign up. I mean, if you go to the bottom of the DPR programs page, you'll be able to click a link to the Chevy Chase Community Center to see specifically what's happening at that site, as well as Lafayette. I can't ignore Lafayette Pointer because, of course, they're also in your 3G. And then the Chevy Chase Community Center, Rec Center, is now in your SMD or your ANC as well. You acquired that. dpr.dc.gov/locations. If you ever want to find a location of a DPR facility somewhere outside of 3G, you just go there and you can find it. And then dpr.dc.gov/permits is our one-stop location on how to host an event at DPR sites. Finally, if you're interested in looking up a specific schedule of activities at like one of your rec centers, if you go to dpr.dc.gov/ and then all caps DPR calendar, it'll give you the link, a breakdown of a monthly list of all the activities at the particular rec center. It's a little bit interesting to use. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me, but that is our one-stop shop for getting into getting to find out what's going on. Also, I lied, dpr.dc.gov/DPR alerts will help you sign up so that you can get alerts if a rec center is closed or a field is offline temporarily. So if you're not subscribed to that, check that out. Now, again, I'm going to drop all these links into the chat. So what I'm really here to talk about today is summer camp, because we are in the summer camp season. I know that you're very excited about that. Our registration for camp started on March 13th. You've already heard to visit dprsummercamp.com for complete information about summer camp. These are the offerings that we have. We have a fantastic array of summer camp offerings for 3 to 13. We sort of have streamlined the process, and instead of having a lot of specialty camps, we've made our basic camps very special, all special. So we have Little Explorers from 3 to 5, Discovery Camp from ages 6 to 10, half-day sports camps for anyone from 11 to 13, and then our DPR boost camps for kids ages 11 to 13. Again, go to dprsummercamp.com for complete information, including the sessions that are happening. There is a reduced rate application that if you've not had a chance to take advantage of, we do offer a reduced rate. Qualifying families can receive either a 50 to 75% discount depending on income level. And this is very important. To receive this reduced rate, you must apply by April 1st in order to be approved by the time the lottery for summer camp is run. Also, the good news is this reduced rate will actually qualify for at least a calendar year. This is a new wrinkle that we've added to our programming this year, because we really want folks to be able to take advantage of this reduced rate, and we want to be as equitable as we can. And I'm also pleased to report that we've had an increase in the number of people who have applied for this reduced rate as a result of this new system that we have, which is very exciting. So, registration. For those of you who are wondering, why didn't I get the opportunity to sign up and wait in line and by noon, and then have a frantic rush to sign in, like I was getting tickets to the Taylor Swift concert or, the Hunger Games. For those of you who don't know, we've changed our process. We are running a lottery. It started on March 13th. The last day to register for the summer camp lottery is on April 5th. On April 18th, we will run the lottery through a, I'm jokingly saying that we have a dartboard in the office set up for it, but that's not the case. We'll do an algorithm, and people will be notified if they've gotten their camp, and then they will be selected, and then the payments will be due on April 25th. You can get 3 location selections can be made per child per session. Interestingly, the participant age is calculated by the session start date. We're offering sibling preferences, and then the lottery registration is for DC residents only. Non-resident registration will become on a first come first served basis starting May 1st. Those are the questions, or that's the end of my presentation. If you have any additional questions on DPR activities or need assistance, you can contact me, Christopher Dyer. My number is 202-702-9453. My email is christopher.dyer@dc.gov. So that is it for my presentation. I am open. I'm excited and would be more than happy to try to answer any questions you guys have at this time.
Christopher, do you mind stop sharing? Thank you. One question I have for you is Lafayette Pointer Park.
Yes.
Are you the POC that's dealt with the issues ongoing there for the past several years?
So let me explain my role. I'm the community engagement manager. I'm basically the moker for DPR.
Okay.
So I'm also an ANC commissioner myself. I needed some street cred with you guys. So I decided to run for election in January. So I really respect the work you guys do. Everyone's smiling. Yeah, I needed a street cred. I don't really have enough excitement in my life. No, but in all seriousness, so I'm your, for all intents and purposes, we try to be as the point of contact. That will be able to navigate and connect you to the people in the agency. We have a new site manager there, Essie Bowman. Israel Lyons is still in the agency, but we were able to add another site manager. So she's responsible for the day-to-day stuff. But in terms of the ongoing stuff, I'm your main point of contact. So you have a question about Lafayette Pointer.
Okay.
And Commissioner Zeldin is remarkably good at asking questions and making suggestions on Lafayette. So
I just want to make sure we do have some information in our budget request letter, specifically calling out the conditions of the perimeter track and lighting. So we're going to, be hammering you guys to get that hopefully resolved. But there is a question in the chat that I wanted to point out to you. From Corinthia Simmons. She said, if a family doesn't get a spot at one of the 3 options, will there be an opportunity to sign up for a location with open spots?
Okay, if there are open slots available after all the stuff is done, my understanding is we'll do another run on May 1st. But please note, you will get up to 3 options per session. So if you pick multiple sessions, you should be okay. We can't make any guarantees. We have a significant demand. There will also be wait lists established at each site as well. So if some sites do not, if something comes open, you'll be and you're number 1 or 2 on the wait list, you'll be bumped up. Again, look at dprsummercamp.com for that, and feel free to email me directly if you have questions, and I can connect you with the registration division.
Okay. Any more questions for Chris? I know you want to get running and not be late.
Oh, no. Listen, guys, thank you for having me. I hope at some point we see you guys in person. I'm much more charming in person, but I really appreciate the work you guys do on behalf of the commission. And thanks again, Christopher Lucas, for the work for deferring to me so I can get going. And again, have a great evening. Feel free to email me, christopher.dyer@dc.gov, and have a great night. Keep up the good work. Thanks for your help. All right.
Last thing, can you send me your presentation?
Already did.
Yeah, great.
Already did. Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
In case I hadn't been able to connect, then you had the backup. So you have it.
Got it. Thank you so much.
All right. Again, thanks, guys.
Before you leave, I'd like to thank you, Chris. And as long as you give me those good locations away from the speakers, you can bump me.
Okay, great. Oh, yeah. Anyway, have a good night, guys. Thanks for your help. Bye.
All right. Okay, so our next presentation is Christopher Lucas, and Christopher is with the DC Office of the Tenant Advocates Education and Community Outreach Sections. Christopher, thank you. Do you like to be called Christopher or Chris?
Chris or Christopher. Me and the former Chris, we used to have a joke we would tell, like saying that he has a nice name, so I didn't get that out today. Either one, Commissioner. Either one.
Thank you. Well, thanks for
need it.
do you have a presentation? Do you need screen access?
I need to share my screen, yes.
Okay, I'll make you co-host. You got it?
Okay, and I am Christopher Lucas with the Office of the Tenant Advocate. Formerly, I was with the legal division, but I've come over during the pandemic to join the legal team or to join education and outreach. As a lot of you know, the Office of the Tenant Advocate has been around for 17 years. And I'm trying to move, I'll use it this way then. Okay. So the Office of the Tenant Advocate has been a voice for DC tenants since, since 2006. We, let me move this out the way so I can just see everything. We're an independent agency within the executive branch of the District of Columbia's government, charged with providing legal policy, advocacy, emergency housing, education, and community outreach. Our legal branch, we have 4 different divisions. That's the legal branch, which most people know about, and I would see most tenants, I would say 85% to 90% of our calls are to the legal branch. And we have the policy branch, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you are aware of. And I was definitely I want to thank Councilmember Foreman for his support and for that legislation. That I think is going to be very, very helpful with what we see, unfortunately, coming that we didn't see last year. We're about to see a lot of it this year. Anyway, let me proceed. So our legal branch provides services to thousands of DC tenants. In certain cases, we provide limited and full legal representation. The Office of the Tenant Advocate attorneys may also assist tenants in their self-representation efforts in navigating mediation and other alternative disputes. Basically, I'm gonna say it the way that it really is. Right now, during the pandemic, for the most part, our attorneys really prepare most tenants to go to court pro se. We also have a relationship with the DC Bar. When they do need to go individually, we'll refer those tenants to them. Our legal branch and all of our numbers are 202-719-6560. That's our main number. We call it our hotline. That's the way that we get counted, and that's the way that we report our numbers to the council and to the mayor. The big topic that we see coming is going to be our eviction issues, and we have the eviction prevention classes. We have them. A lot of you know that ERAP right now is closed, but we also deal with, of course, the main thing is rent increases because we do with the Rental Housing Act, lease-related questions, pest, mold, and all types of different housing code violations, security deposit returns. That's a big issue that we are working, that our legal division is working on right now. TOPA, the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, both education and legal are heavily involved with that. As I stated, our main number is 202-719-6560. And when tenants call, they're basically triaged. They'll be called, and most of the time, because we're getting a high volume of calls, I just want to say it for real to you all. We're getting a high volume of calls. So a lot of the calls that are coming in are going to voicemail. They then are returned, the tenants are then returned a call immediately and triaged and either given to a case management specialist or an attorney advisor, depending on the severity of the issue. If it's something basic, for the most part, a case management specialist will handle it and provide them the information and the resources they need. If it needs further attention, that will be escalated to an attorney. If the issue comes in where it is a legal issue that only attorney can handle, or if it's the type of situations where tenants want a legal review of like their leases or documents or drafting assistance, and those will go directly to attorneys. Our policy, as most of you all know, our policy works with the government and community partners, and of course the council and everything. I know I'm on a time limit. I don't want to run it over, so I was going to paraphrase it.
That's fine.
Okay. Education and community outreach. That's what I've joined in with, and we're developing and have developed educational materials, classes, as well as virtual tutorials, which I'd like to show some of you. That's why I was trying to rush through this to get to the fun stuff. On issues important to district tenants. We also participate in community events, and that's what I was talking with Chris about. Education outreach, of course, the same number. You will call 202-719-6560, request education to come out. We do listening sessions for tenants and tenant associations, for groups of tenants and tenant associations that are having issues. We are working with council members and other ANCs in a collaborative effort to do listening sessions. We do customized classes. Of course, we assist with forming and sustaining tenant associations. We have a program now that we've developed. It's a tenant mentoring program, peer mentoring program, where we're taking long-standing tenant associations and putting them with new tenant associations to try to strengthen tenant associations throughout the District of Columbia. And like I said, we were doing more and more listening sessions by request. Our temporary emergency housing program, that assists tenants that have been displaced by fire, flood, or by disasters, government closures. That's a program that is only activated when either the Department of Buildings, Homeland Security, the Homeland Security and the Emergency Management Agency, DC Fire, and Emergency Medical Services Department, and the Red Cross contact us. We'll basically provide 14 days of temporary housing. We'll provide storage for personal belongings. We're really a stopgap measure to help tenants during that trying time after some kind of natural situation to get themselves together and get their bearings in order. Now I want to speak to you about the program that I really come over for, is about the eviction prevention. As a lot of you all know, I used to play football up in that area and I used to go to school in that area, so I know where you all are. But still, hopefully it doesn't hit that area. But still, there are only 10 specific reasons in the District of Columbia that tenants may be evicted. The most common reasons in the District of Columbia, of course, for non-payment of rent and for lease violations. We're seeing a third, and that is for illegal activity in the units. Outside of that, all the other issues are more or less taking back the property and things of that nature. So, as you all may know, because I'm pretty sure I know a lot, I've looked into a lot of your background. Tenants in the District of Columbia can only be evicted for the tenants being evicted for lawful reasons in the District of Columbia must receive written notices, both those notices for the eviction as well as for the court dates by the landlord. A written notice from the landlord describing the reasons for the eviction is 1. 2, an opportunity to cure if the lease violations is the basis for the eviction. 3, an opportunity to challenge the landlord's claim in court. And 4, to prevent eviction for non-payment of rent. We always recommend tenants pay the rent and contact our attorneys if they want to take other legal actions, if it's housing code violations and things of that nature. We don't want the tenants to be in jeopardy. In order to evict a tenant in the District of Columbia, all landlords must go through the judicial process. And if the landlord prevails and wins possessions in the eviction case, the court issues what is a writ of restitution. The writ of restitution is the landlord's legal order that permits them to have possession back from the tenant. In the District of Columbia, all evictions must be scheduled with the United States Marshals, and the United States Marshals must be present. Self-help evictions, as a lot of you all, again, may know about the laws, self-help evictions are prohibited and unlawful now in the District of Columbia. And again, so now I can take questions what I'm better at. If you or any of your constituents have any questions concerning any legal matters with the landlords, please have them call the Office of the Tenant Advocate at 202-719-6560. We have our website and we have social media. And I wanted to just show you what some of our education things that we do have. So really, it's really easy now for tenants. If they just go to our YouTube page, as you see, we have a number. I'm not going to go through all of them, but we're starting to even put animation with them now. We're starting to put animation with them now. As you see, there are a number of different languages. We have a host of them.
Screen. Chris, if you think we can see your screen, we can't. We still see the presentation.
Oh.
You have to share on your internet.
There it is. I apologize.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, this bar thing, I was able to get it down one time, but now it goes away. Now I can see everything. But yeah, so as you can see, we have a variety of different tutorials and some we've translated. So I'm ready for any questions, if you have any questions.
Let me ask you one question. You said that the number 3 reason now is starting to be evictions for criminal activity. Why are you, so you said that is a new increase more than the previous year?
It is an increase more than the previous, it's definitely an increase more than the previous year, because in the previous year, landlords weren't even able to evict because of the public health emergency. But before that, it was not as much as it is now.
How are they substantiating the criminal activity?
You can talk, yeah, I would recommend you contact Joel Korn in our policy office for those numbers and for those details. Because what happens in some of those cases, we get shut out. Because if those cases are coming in as a tenant making a claim against another tenant, that's a conflict of interest for us. So we can't do tenant on tenant. The other cases of issues when that if someone, of course, was, I guess, arrested for something or something of that nature, the landlords are able to use the Nuisance Abatement Act, and they can file for an eviction. And there's really no defense to that, so our office doesn't get involved in that as well. But that is something that we've seen. It's not that high, but it is something we're seeing more than pre-pandemic.
Okay. And does your office maintain a list of tenant associations?
Yes,
So
you can, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Do you, are you able to share that with the ANC, or is it public information or non-public? I'd be interested to know what tenant associations we have in 3G.
I can make sure that the person that has that, I can make sure that they get that list either to me or get it to you, because I know we've given it to council members before.
Okay.
I don't have the list.
Okay.
Nicole McAfee, she's kind of our person that does the tenant association workshops. She does the TOPA classes. She works with all of our tenant associations. She's the one who's actually spearheading the tenant peer mentoring program.
Okay.
So she has all of that.
That would be great. Thank you. Any other commissioners or community members have questions? Okay, you're off the hook.
Thank you.
But you all have a good night. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. I
too.
appreciate it. And if you
And again, invite us to your events this summer. If you have events, please invite us to your events. And if you have tenants that have issues, if there are 5 or more tenants in your areas that have issues, please have them give us a call, or you all give us a call, and we'll come out and do a listening session.
I think that's great. And that's actually kind of where I'm going.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you haven't emailed your presentation to me, if you don't mind, send it to me on email.
I'll send that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You all have a good night.
Yeah. Okay, so next up on the agenda is the discussion and possible vote on a resolution regarding transportation to school for students with special needs. And all commissioners should have received a copy of the resolution, hopefully reviewed it. I'm just going to quickly go over the rationale for the general public. The resolution is in draft form posted on the ANC website. And there has been just a synopsis. There's been a lot of public discussion recently in social media areas, as well as a recent article in the Washington Post regarding OSSI, who's the DC Office of the State Superintendent of Education, which is responsible for transporting our special needs students as opposed to DDOT. Sometimes I think people think DDOT is a transportation agency. It's actually OSSI is responsible for that. There's been a lot of issues with a lack of drivers, therefore a lack of timeliness on the routes. And it's been extremely disruptive to families and students trying to meet their academic and social and educational needs. So the rationale is transportation is a service on the signed IEP, which is Individualized Education Program document that's agreed to by the parents or caregivers of a student and the school under IDEA. So Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. OSSI is a responsible agency. OSSI has a long-standing history of failing to provide timely and safe transportation for students with special needs. For the past 8 weeks, late and no-show buses have caused students with special needs, including those residing in our ANC, to miss class time, left families frustrated and scrambling to know what to expect from one day to the next. As a result, parents and guardians had to make transportation arrangements on extremely short notice to get their kids to and from school. Parents and caregivers also have to pay out of pocket to get their children to school and have to wait at least 30 days minimum for reimbursement with no maximum amount of reimbursement of time defined. So 30 days minimum, no maximum of time has been defined when they could receive reimbursement. Teachers and staff are being forced to work overtime to care for these students and make sure they're picked up. Special needs students are being denied FAPE, which is free and appropriate public education and services required by their IEP. These issues were highlighted in a February 8th, 2023 Washington Post article entitled "DC is Failing Disabled Students Who Rely on Buses to Get to School." And OSSI has yet to find an acceptable resolution to this important and pressing issue facing communities across the district. So in the therefore resolved, I won't read each and every one of those, but there's roughly 14 or so recommendations that we're asking for the mayor's office and the council to take immediate action to bring relief to the students and families and their caregivers. And that is a synopsis of the resolution. I thought this is a important one. I know families in my SMD that absolutely have these transportation issues and rely on OSSI to transport their special needs students. So even though this is a district-wide issue, it's also one of those issues that hits home to families in our area. I was asked by a Ward 3 community member to bring this resolution to the ANC, and I gladly did so. And we'll be happy to take any questions from the commission if you guys have any.
Chair Gore, I've just got something to say.
Yep.
I'm totally on board with this resolution, and I think it should be pointed out, if it's not clear to everybody already, that the idea that we're even pushed into a position where we're bringing up resolutions like this is shameful. This is outrageous, and you got to contact your elected leaders. This is on them. This is on the structure of schools in DC, and they need to hear from you, and they need to hear from people that are not just parents. I just put a link in the chat to Ward 3 EdNet. That was started a long time ago by Councilmember Fruman. A great organization if you want to dig in on education. But education everywhere, I'm a teacher myself, education everywhere needs more people weighing in, supporting schools, advocating for kids. We don't have an education committee on the council. There are just so many places and things that need addressing in this city, in education all over the country. And this is just one small example, but the idea that we need to pass a resolution asking, pleading to get kids who have disabilities to school on time, that they're missing school, aside from the fact that that's illegal, that they would be missing the same opportunities that other kids are getting. This is outrageous, and we all should be pretty fired up about it. And it's not just the concern of the schools that are in our area, but all over the city. So thank you, Chair Gore, for bringing this before this ANC, and I hope everybody not only thinks about it here, but also raises their voice to our elected leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner statements? Commissioner Nash?
Yeah, Lisa, I missed you. I missed this one part of what you were saying. I think excuse me, it's a district-wide problem, but you have heard, did you say, from parents in your SMD in particular about this problem? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other commissioner comments? Any comments from members of the community? If you do, raise your hand. Ron Khan?
Yeah, hi. Just a question of detail. Do you know if Metro Access is part of the network that provides services for these disadvantaged students, or could it because there's a lapse in capacity?
You know what? I don't believe they don't or are part of it. I know that the transportation aides on a lot of these buses are specially trained, and they all fall under OSSI. I do not know if Metro Access has the ability to handle the type of students that take this particular type of transportation. They're special needs students, so that has to be taken into account. And OSSI is the agency, and probably rightfully so, that should handle it. Any other community questions? Okay. All right, well, seeing none, I move that the commission adopt the ANC 34G resolution, transportation to school for students with special needs. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, 5-0. Thank you, commissioners. And Commissioner Lynch, thank you for bringing a passion and your experience as an educator to the discussion. I am going to try to really focus some of our attention on educational issues in DC. My son just came out of DC public schools, and I've always been fighting a good fight for him and whoever else I can fight it for. And you're exactly right. These are kids that have specific needs, and when they are not in class or not being able to receive services, so you also got to think about like their schedules, and sometimes after school they have, you know, maybe services that they are required to receive or, you know, due to receive, and they are missing a lot of that because of the transportation schedules. A lot of the parents have to pay out of pocket to get their kids there. In the Washington Post article, there's a mom that talked about not being able to send her child to school because the disruption of their schedules is so magnified comparative to kids that are not in that situation. So we do have to do whatever we can as a community to raise these issues and let the broader city government know that they're not acceptable. It's a terrible situation. And I'll put the link to the Washington Post article in there, and I encourage everybody to read it. And then once you read it, I really encourage you to take action on it. Commissioner Lynch.
Yeah, spot on, Chair Gore. And just to add to that, this is not a situation where kids are not being able to go to school and then missing sort of first period English. A lot of times these kids with special needs are meeting with special educators. They're going to unique classes. They need a regular schedule. Things that are going on throughout the day, the routine is essential to their education. So to throw that out of whack is all the more egregious. It's not as if, you know, oh, I just didn't miss history today, or guess I don't go to math class. It's a little bit more serious than that, and it's totally inexcusable. Thank you, Chair Gore.
Thank you. Okay, so our next discussion is on the discussion and possible vote on ANC 34G's FY24 budget priority letter. Zach, do you mind throwing the link to that letter in the chat off of our website? So folks can see it if they want. But this is really kind of the first time that the ANC has done a budget priority letter. Typically, we do, and we also are this time, budget testimony of various agencies. But the reason why I really kind of did the letter this time is because we have 4 new commissioners. We got a lot of new commissioners. So it kind of narrowed the people that was able to write budget testimony, because a lot of it is historical. And sometimes coming into a commission very new, that's a daunting task to kind of capture the history of an issue and testify and answer council questions, you know, as an incoming new commissioner, unless you maybe worked on task forces and kind of know that issue. So what I kind of did is I tried to encapsulate a lot of the things that we had worked on, and I'll go through some of the major highlights in a letter to the council. So the other thing I know, which might come up in the community, and you're absolutely right, is we are sending this out a little late. Ideally, it would have probably have been done in mid to late January, so that we would have time to kind of maybe do performance oversight testimony. We are on time for budget oversight testimony, if that's what we had chosen to do. But to get this maybe to the mayor ahead of her doing her budget. So since she has released her budget, we, you know, have looked at this. There's some tweaks that we made, nothing major, because her budget doesn't address all of these issues, specifically in terms of the Ward 3 and Ward 4 priorities. And we are addressing this to our council members. We'll CC the mayor and the rest of the council so that they're also aware of everything that we're advocating for. And then additionally, you know, our council members did do a good job with putting some of our priorities in there, but they didn't cover it all. And I think, you know, one of the roles of the ANC is to advocate for the community, and making sure that, you know, we press the council members to put into things into their budget letter that we think should be there. That's our community priority. So hopefully next year we'll be able to do a little bit more robust community engagement around this. I would really love to have the community provide us feedback. There are certain things that I wasn't aware of because I hadn't dealt with them before. Like one was the Lafayette Pointer issue. I didn't realize how long that had been going on. That previously, supposedly there was money in the budget, then they couldn't find, you know, they didn't do it or something came up, you know, a mishap with that. So those are the type of things that we need to like really stay on and keep those issues in mind when we're doing the budget request. So with this one, we pretty much hit all of the major areas of the budget. So under economic development and regulation, we request funding for the Chevy Chase Civic Corps. We had a request for home buying opportunities with DC government employees, particularly that would be the employer assisted housing program. Under operations and infrastructure, which is probably our most lengthiest section, we talk about investments in traffic safety and traffic calming. We go through there and we list out pretty much all the hotspot areas that members of the community have talked about. So like Connecticut Avenue, Western Avenue, Pinehurst Circle, Utah, Oregon Avenue, Tennyson, Rittenhouse, Northampton. So we talk about a lot of the problematic spots that our community have talked about over and over. Lafayette Elementary School, traffic calming measures around there. Chevy Chase Circle, that's another big one. Under that section, we also talk about restoring the E6 bus route. That was not in our council members' letter, and I was hoping to see that there. We added fund for stormwater management efforts in Barnaby Woods, which is a big issue that some of our Barnaby Woods have been dealing with Stormwater management throughout the years, we request $250,000 to pay or reimburse costs to conduct a site survey. The Ward 4 Council Member's Office was extremely helpful in this language in working with me to come up with the language to get this in the letter. We also talk about lead service line replacement, which is something that ANC has historically tried to address for several years. A new one, improving the district home composting program, which one of the new commissioners brought up, and which is a great addition. DC actually has a sustainable DC plan that tries to get us to a zero waste goal by 2032. I don't know if we're on track to make it, but I think we have a really good request in here to remind them that that's something that's important to us in terms of sustainability. In terms of the public education system, we talk about the budget shortfalls for Lafayette Elementary School, which is getting a proposed decrease of 5.26%, which is kind of what all the schools are just about getting. So it kind of looks like an arbitrary cut. We asked to keep their funding at level at the very minimum, if not increased. We have a request in here for Lafayette Corner Recreation Center repairs for the fields, the perimeter track and lighting, which has been going on for years. We renew our request for funding for a senior wellness center in Ward 3, which is a brick and mortar request that this ANC has fought for years. That was also echoed in Council Member Fruman's office. New to the ANC, Public Safety and Justice, we have a request to fund patrol officer for Connecticut Avenue in our ANC area. We've had a rash of burglaries. I think on a listserv, one of the posts that's going around is what happened at CVS. We had another listserv post that talked about two neighbors, I believe, that were assaulted. So we have some issues going on along the avenue. We would like to see that safety patrol come back. We talk about under governmental direction and support, addressing the backlog of work orders for Lafayette Elementary School. A lot of our schools across the district are really behind in getting their work orders addressed by DGS. We are not the worst, but we have too many. We have 25 outstanding work orders. Some of them go back to 2022, and the DGS dashboard is not probably as transparent as it could be to help us understand the phase that those work orders are in. So we talk about improvements to that system as well. And then strengthening the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions, which you will always hear us say how worked to the bones the ANC commissions are across the city. We do not receive a stipend, not even $1. I just learned that State Board of Education gets $20,000 stipend. So we do ask for that recommendation to make stipends or salaries available for commissioners. We also ask for enhancement to improve the operational function of ANCs. So basically investing in critically needed hybrid meeting technology is one of the things that we talk about, and the salary incentive. So those are the big ticket items and pretty much everything that we discuss in our budget letter. Very interested to hear you all's comments. I put a link in the chat for the submit feedback form on the ANC website. That would be perfect if you guys have anything in there that we left off, to use that to get it to us. And I do see a comment from Elizabeth Vayton. She says she encourages the ANC to amend the segment in the resolution concerning the civic core to expressly cite the need for underground parking. And Elizabeth, we have we can definitely discuss that, but we do have, which is going to be, I think, the next topic of discussion, the budget testimony for DPR in the library, which is a more robust testimony. And I believe we referenced that in that testimony. I will double check it, but I just want you to know that we did a snippet in the budget letter because the broader testimony is actually going to be testimony given by Commissioner Gosselin, which would go into more detail. So thanks for adding that. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Lynch.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I think it's a great document and a great tradition, if that's the right word, to start up for the ANC. I sent this in an email rather late, but I would just offer a friendly amendment when we bring up the issues at Lafayette around work orders and funding for the school, that we also emphasize funding for schools all over the city and work orders for schools all over the city. Ruth Wattenberg, who was the former State Board of Education representative, had a great line that I think is apt here, where when there are area schools have a cold, the rest of the schools in the city often have pneumonia. Oftentimes those work orders, those cuts are worse in other places than they are here. So I think adding in just a sentence language to support the funding and the work orders at schools all over the city as well.
Okay, can you give us specific language for that? What I have under DGS is the district has sought to improve its delivery of quality service improvements to school work orders, but this remains problematic to many schools across the district, including Lafayette Elementary School. And then on the budget part, maybe a little bit more discreet, I say most schools across the district receive the same 5% cut, which makes a case that the decrease in funding is arbitrary.
Yeah, I think we're really close.
Do you have language? I need language.
Yeah. Would it be best to type it in the chat? I don't think I'm gonna talk it out loud as best I could if I could write it. Would that help?
Yes, and what we could do, if the commission is okay with adding something like that for both sections, we could still, I'll word the motion to include something to the effect, to include amended language regarding on the schools, public education systems, and I'll work out the language before I make the motion. DGS backlog, which falls under governmental direction, that will draft language to address all schools across the district.
Great. Thank you for hearing me out, and I will get to crafting that language in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Commissioner Sherman.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge the residents of Single Member District 02, my neighbors, for working very closely with me and with one another on traffic safety matters. On February 16th, I convened a special meeting on traffic safety with DDOT representatives there, along with other members of our community, our former head of DDOT, Tom Downs, and David Patton, who's the transportation planner for Arlington County. And we talked through, over a period of an hour and a half, a whole series of concerns that neighbors had regarding speeding, running of stop signs, and those matters. Since then, we've had a working group going on traffic safety, and we have been filing with DDOT's with DDOT itself and through their traffic safety input system, a number of requests for traffic calming on the streets that are identified now in the budget document, namely Rittenhouse and Northampton, Oregon, and Nebraska. So I just want to acknowledge that this has been a very strong community effort with a lot of neighbor participation. It's also the case that traffic calming in the form of speed bumps is not the only form of traffic calming. We're talking about a wide range of measures that we could be considering if, in fact, DDOT prioritizes the streets in our district to look at how we calm the traffic. It isn't always the case that you throw up another speed bump. I know there are many people in the community who feel that we have too many speed bumps and the ones we have are too high. I've heard that from a number of people, and I've been talking to my constituents about that. So as we take a look at whether or not we get DDOT's attention, not only through this budget letter, through our council members, but also through the submissions that, again, our neighbors are filing through the TSI system. When we get to the point where we're looking at actual remedies, it'll be a very collaborative, community-involved process in which we hear everyone out. We don't just all of a sudden overnight have DDOT put in speed bumps, because we know that many people have concerns about that. So just to say that it'll be a collaborative process going forward, but I do want to thank all the constituents who've been very thoughtful, very diligent in contributing.
Thank you. Couple things in the chat.
Oh.
First, Ron Kahn, 2 questions. Can you supply more details related to an ANC salary? Also, are there specific ANC 34G new spending items that you are recommending? So regarding the salary, that has been a discussion amongst the ANCs for years. They've talked about salaries. They've also talked about stipends. Councilmember Christina Henderson, I think I don't want to misquote the council member, but I believe she's doing a study and looking at that very question. So it's something that the ANCs have been bringing up for years. There's no set figure. We're not recommending an amount, but we are recommending that the mayor look, towards the issue and to make some contribution towards that, which he could. Commissioner Nash, do you want to go before I continue on with the chat comments?
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to request, I can send you specific language in the chat. It'd be pretty simple, but I've been in touch with a constituent at DDOT about the horrible condition of sidewalks along Military between 27th and Nebraska, particularly on the south side of that street. And on the north side, there's no sidewalk at all where the little forest is. Those sidewalks are unusable. And bizarrely, just today, they are tearing out and doing new sidewalks right next to my house where the sidewalks are fine. I have no idea what's going on with that. But if that's okay, I can send you the specific area and the request for the sidewalk improvements there. Is that okay?
Yep, that's
Okay.
perfect.
Okay.
Okay. The next is just a comment from Mary Callahan. She agrees with Peter Lynch about taking leadership for funding and improvement of schools throughout the city. Absolutely. Then on Elizabeth Baton, I think language regarding our ANC's commitment to school improvement citywide is great, and I believe is consistent with Councilmember Fruma's priorities as well. Completely agree. Andrea Rosen, very long post. She's encouraging the ANC to remove references to affordable housing in the budget letter and the civic core testimony, because the increase in funding requested for the budget is for the library and community center, as the ANC has not yet conducted the community survey and the ANC has come out against surplusing. It is inappropriate to presume a use not even referenced in the budget. My argument even appears in the footnote that states capital funding. Right, we put the footnote in there, right. It would be premature now to establish the final cost. No realistic estimate will be possible until the scope of work has been defined. Yeah, Andrea, we actually discussed a lot of this. And I think that the language we have in there is pretty much what the committee agreed upon. The committee co-chairs and even Councilmember Fruman in his budget letter requested an amount, which was $4 million specifically for affordable housing. So we're actually moving in line with what the council member for Ward 3 has requested himself. So I think our request is fairly in line. But commissioners, please feel free to look at her comment more in depth. And then Peter, that is additional confidence. I like that. Okay. So commissioners, Commissioner Lynch had put his suggested draft language in the chat. I think those are both good proposals. I don't have a problem with that. And then on Mary Callahan, she states, following Bruce Sherman, speed bumps generally only direct traffic elsewhere and are often so large that they do damage to vehicles. Bruce, I don't know if you want to comment on Mary's comment.
Only to say that certainly, as I indicated, very mindful of the fact that speed bumps come in all shapes and sizes. They don't have to be extraordinarily large. They don't even actually have to be part of traffic calming. There can be other measures of calming traffic. So the jury's out on what the remedies would be. In the first instance, we have to get DDOT's attention to address speeding and the running of stop signs on our neighborhood streets. That's really the primary objective right now, but that point's well taken. Thanks, Mary.
Got it, James. Okay, any more community comments? All right, commissioners, you have any more comments? All right, so I move that the ANC adopt the draft March 27th, or let me not put the date on it, to draft the FY24 budget letter with amendments as offered by Commissioner Zeldin, Sherman, Lynch, and Nash. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Okay.
Great.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And just so commissioners, we know that we're working off the last letter that Commissioner Sherman sent, which included his last set of comments on the infrastructure side. And then I'll take from the chat what Commissioner Lynch and Nash suggested for their areas. And I'll add that and I'll send one last draft out for your review since we had so many additions. Thank you. I appreciate it, everybody. Commissioner Lynch, do you want to take this last discussion and possible vote? I'll do it if you wanted to do it. I will defer to you.
This is the update on Civic Corps and ZDD.
The testimony before the Committee on Recreation, Library, and Youth Affairs. So this is the budget testimony.
Okay, so I'm a little behind on that. If you want to take that update would be great.
Okay.
And if you want an update on the ZDD meeting last Thursday, I could handle that one.
Got it. Okay. So the next agenda item is discussion and possible vote on ANC 34G's testimony before the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs fiscal year 2024 budget hearing, Department of Parks and Recreation. So this was one of the committees of the Zoning, Design, and Development Committee that's working on the Civic Corps issues. They had a subcommittee, which is basically the Finance Committee, came up with the budget testimony for the Civic Corps project. We received, I believe, 2 drafts from the committee. This last draft was redlined again based on the mayor's budget. I don't know if you guys have it in front of you, but on page 5 and 6 and 7 were the major markups in this particular one. And it talked about the proposed fiscal year 24 capital budget for the community center. Basically, what they say is merely carries forward the same funding that has been in place since 2019, a total of 19.5 million, 1 million of which has already been spent leaving 18.487 million, a projected balance of roughly 7 million at the end of fiscal year 23 and 11 million for fiscal year 24. We discussed it was clear in 2020 that this amount would be insufficient to meet the required needs. And the shortfall, it will be even greater based on construction costs and the cost of inflation and changes to the scope of the project. There is another part in here that I wanted to read. This, I think, trying to go back to the comment, I believe it was, sorry, I think it was Elizabeth's. Yeah. So Elizabeth, going back to your comment about expressly citing the need for underground parking, what this says is the funding will fall short of what is required for these two new buildings, refurbished open recreation space and underground parking to serve the public facilities. Without adequate district funding to support its facilities, the community will not get the community center and library that they need and will not be able to create the needed affordable housing. So we do, I thought that was in there. Hopefully that answers your question and your fear a little bit of the parking not being mentioned, because we did specifically mention that. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Councilmember Fruman's letter, and I don't know if his staffer is still on, address the public facilities and parking as well. I believe his did. I'm not sure. Lee, if you're on and you know the answer to that, can you tell us a little bit about his request?
Certainly happy to. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yes, and I put a link in the chat for others who may have questions about the specific language, but the council member did include in his letter a request for 4 million each for the library and the recreation center to support underground parking, with the idea being that providing that underground parking would then enable the kind of public facilities envisioned by the community, as well as the prospect of affordable housing on this.
Great.
If I can copy it, I will put the exact language in the chat in just a moment.
Thank you so much. Elizabeth, did you? Great, thank you. I love those emojis. That helps a lot. Thanks so much. I thought that was in there. I didn't want to mix it up and get it wrong, especially on our council member. Thanks so much. So with that, Commissioner Gosselin agreed to give this budget testimony. The hearing date is April 5th. This will be the commission's testimony. Obviously, community members are free to offer their testimony. You can also, commissioners, if you want to testify individually in your capacity as a citizen, a resident, you can do that. But I think this is a pretty well written testimony, and it really falls in line with what our council member is advocating for as well. So with that, commissioners, do you all have any questions?
I have just a few comments, Chair Gore. The first concerns the statement regarding the 2018 survey and what the community expects that the community center will include. I was asking the question earlier about whether that is up to date, given recent citizen input on surplusing and what we understand from the community. That's a very specific set of items coming out of the 2018 survey, which at this point, of course, is 5 years old. So I'm just wondering, in fact, if that reflects current community input and interest. That's question.
So as I stated, I don't know if we can say that that reflects current interest, because we have not resurveyed the community. So, but I do think the statement is accurate. As of the 2018 survey, which a lot of the community on a listserv has, allotted, that is what the community called for. So I think until we redo a survey, that is right now the survey input that we have with what community members want to see in that library community center project. So I don't believe it addressed the affordable housing space. It was strictly, I believe, for the library and community center space. So that's what we have at this point until we can get the survey going.
Okay, the concern would be that some would read this as bringing forward the 2018 survey and not codifying, but when you give testimony, you are affirming a certain position, of course, and some could read this as saying this is what the community now expects as the statement reads. So if we understand that it's that and that it's the best we have, although it is the case that a lot of people have given a lot of input on the surplusing as to what their priorities are for the community center and the library.
Yeah.
But we don't have that in any
Right.
way to package it and bring it forward. Okay.
Right.
So the second area that I would point out is the statement about the commission supporting building significant, and in parentheses or brackets, at least 50% dedicated affordable housing and workforce housing and so forth. That tracks back to recommendations in 2020. And I'm wondering here again, when members of the community read this, if they see in that an affirmative statement from the commission recognizing that all of this is still under discussion and debate, and it's all a work in progress. And sometimes, again, testimony can seem to codify or affirm official positions that that the members of the community would take as where we are at the moment as a community on that. So I wanted to point that and ask the question about how far we want to go in making such a statement at this point.
Well, I think it is a statement that we should keep in, and we have it worded as the commission has strongly supported building significant, at least 50%, dedicated affordable housing and workforce housing with a focus on households earning 50% or less of median family income above the Chevy Chase Community Center and Chevy Chase Library. So that is the reference to the commission's support of dedicated affordable housing above that site. And we're really asking in this budget testimony is for additional money to be allocated to the public facilities so it doesn't cut into that goal. So I'm not sure what else we would put there, because that is the on record testimony of the commission, and it has been that for years since 2020. And since we've adopted that resolution, we don't have any other resolution, any other testimony from the commission that states otherwise. So I'm not sure why we would not want to state that. If the commission's sentiment regarding the affordable housing portion of the site is going to change, then somebody needs to put forth a resolution.
Right. So I understand that, and I'm just taking note of the ongoing dialogue around the civic side, obviously, and where many people are offering their thinking currently, and it is a matter of intense interest in the community, of course. And again, they look at the ANC and the commission and statements the commission makes as reflecting the community input, and some people may wonder where these affirmative statements come from. It's worth noting here too, and it gets back to the survey in 2018 and the suggestion that we do a new survey, that this particular reference comes from work that was done around 2020. I know you were part of it and others at the time on the commission. During COVID, when obviously there was less community involvement just because of the nature of things at that time. So I would then suggest that, and I know this is something the commission is talking about, and we all have views on, not replicating the 2018 survey, but looking at doing a new survey that gives the community full input into all aspects of the civic site in a way that builds on the work of 2018. At the time, it was a very robust survey that the community supported, a very well-regarded effort. I support doing a new survey with associated community engagement so that we're reaching out and helping people in the community understand the issues at play, and then listening to their views and sampling their opinion comprehensively on the civic side. I can say from my own interactions with my constituents in my single member district that very, very few of them have a grasp of the complexity of the issues surrounding the civic side. Very few of them have really much familiarity with the small area plan. So I think we still have a lot of work to do to educate people, bring them along, and then listen to them and sample their opinions on the civic side as a whole. So I'll just make that statement in light of what is in the testimony that presents views of the community as presented by the commission.
And I don't, as I said on the email, I don't disagree with what you're saying. And I don't think that this testimony is necessarily non-representative of community views. This ANC, did a lot of outreach to the community. And as you stated, members of the ANC also listened to their constituents and surveyed their responses, in coming up with their determination on the best way to proceed forward. And that's what the ANC is continuing to do. That's why the ANC established Zoning Design and Development Committee and created underneath that committee, not one, but 4 subcommittees to address various aspects of what's going on at the civic core. One committee came up with this testimony, their finance. They're not only, were responsible for drafting this testimony, but they're also looking for, is there an alternative to surplusing? How can we finance the site? So all of that work is ongoing. They had, and I believe roughly 30 members of the community that showed up, either in person and or virtually at their last committee meeting, which is unheard of. So I think the community, the ANC has done a good job in letting the community know where we are, how our committees are working, and trying to involve them in this process. I definitely agree with you. I still go out and I try to talk to my neighbors about this all the time because I'm in the single member district that's furthest away from Connecticut Avenue. And I want to make sure, folks in single member district 01 that aren't on the avenue as frequently as someone in single member district 05 understands what's going on at the civic core. And honestly, the last neighbor that I talked to who lives right off of Oregon, the one thing he requested was a pickleball court. So, not knowing the full details, but, talking to him about what's happening, he was very excited about the potential of a new community center and library. He didn't have much comment on housing. His comment was on the pickleball court. So he might be at the mayor's announcement upcoming. But, I think, you're right. And there is a subgroup of zoning ZDD, and maybe Peter will discuss this in the committee reports, that is dedicated to just, survey. That's one of the things. I believe their subcommittee is called Charette, and they are working on that engagement part of it. We absolutely 100% want to continue the engagement process and make it continuous. That's been my argument and my discussions with DMPET from day one. So I think we definitely hear you. We will definitely have Commissioner Lynch to give us a little bit more information about how they're progressing with that. I think that's the biggest obstacle, is to make sure that, we have the right skill sets to get that done and make sure that we connect all those issues in a transparent, even-handed way to make sure our community is continued to be informed and engaged. Commissioner Lynch.
Thank you, Chair Gore. And Commissioner Sherman, it's a great idea. In the last Charette Community Engagement Subcommittee, we talked about just this, and I know Commissioner Goslin is very interested in tying in a group called Link that is a professional at community facilitation and surveys, and we are all interested in doing surveys, but also, as Chair Gore said, surveys around actual charrettes or models of what could be at the site, so that people can wrap their heads around the different choices and options that could be at the site and weigh in on that, and then get community feedback. We have several architects and people that work in this field on the committee who have said that there is, in our experience, in a whole process of gaining community feedback through these charrette survey meetings. So we're in the works of getting that, and it's on the way, and we're right there with you with that idea.
Yeah, I would just say that I think it is a great opportunity, frankly, for us as a commission. I know, again, just speaking from my interaction with my constituents, whenever something of this magnitude comes up, just like the development across the street from where we live, the Moray Development ECC, it is a subject of great interest in the community. And yet a lot of people, just because of their busy professional and personal lives, don't have the time to delve into the details. When you begin a conversation with people and you ask them if they're interested, of course they are. This is their community, and anything on Connecticut Avenue is going to stand out as, needless to say, signature project that everyone in the community has an interest in. So it's an opportunity for us to educate. It's an opportunity for us to inform, and then truly to listen to where people are. The one thing that I would say about listening is that when we listen, I understand the charrette process and framing certain options that then you would solicit people's opinions on. And I understand too that until there are certain concrete things for people to respond to, sometimes the questions or the whole process or the project can seem abstract, and people wouldn't even know what they're responding to. I get that. But there are many people in the community, as we hear, who offer an opinion to just keep the community center and the library as they are. And I understand that that is at odds with the process otherwise, and decisions taken already by the commission. But in terms of listening to people, I think it's important to open the aperture, view the community as a whole, be open to what everybody has to say, listen very carefully, and then proceed, of course, to begin to present options and let people know exactly what they're thinking about. And I would say as well that the recent developments related to the civic site and so forth create a situation in which just keeping track of the latest developments is tough, because there are so many new things happening. The deed restriction that just came up and so forth. And so we have a lot of work to do, and I know the committee understands this. And I know the commission as a whole understands this, to keep people completely informed, to be very transparent, and to be very open to what people have to say about it. And a survey that you're working on, I think, can go a long way towards that.
Yep. I think we're all saying the same thing. Any other commissioner comments? Okay. There's just a few comments in the chat. Okay. Well, we will look forward to at least our survey. I know under the new process, and I'm working with DMPED to come and speak before the community at a special meeting to go over the RFP process. We'll also offer additional opportunities for engagement. You know, when we have that feedback, we will definitely, as we always have, taken it into consideration and act accordingly, you know, on our interests. So with that, I move that the commission adopt the ANC 34G testimony before the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs, fiscal year 24 budget hearing, Department of Parks and Recreation as amended. And those are with the amendments that were last sent on the last draft by former Commissioner Speck and the Finance Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, 5-0. Thank you, commissioners. Good discussion. So ANC committee and task force reports, we might have just kind of did the ZDD report, but Commissioner Lynch, do you want to give us an update on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a whole host of things are going on, and it is totally understandable that people might feel confused or that things are fast moving, because they are, and we are trying to catch up too. So one of the most important things is that last week a deed restriction was found, and about the back 125 feet of the Civic Corps site is restricted from having apartments on it. And so that would limit the ability of any architect to deal with that plot of land. It's unclear where to go from here. I think there are differing views in the community. There are differing views on the ZDD committee. It seemed to be differing views at the Office of Planning and DMPED, and probably from the Fruman office as well. So I think folks are waiting to see what happens there. You mentioned earlier too that there is an RFP process that is in the works too, which was proposed, I believe, before this deed restriction was found. And that is the process which DMPED is going to use going forward, which we have advocated for, which essentially allows for community input as the request for proposal happens at the Civic Corps site. As I mentioned earlier, Peter G is looking into getting this group linked to do community surveys, to do working groups around charrettes and models, and to your point, Commissioner Sherman, to hear from the community in a more comprehensive and professional way. Commissioner Gore, you mentioned this earlier, but I think everybody has agreed that we'd really like to hear from DMPED and OP where they stand and what they plan to do going forward. And I would also add that it would be great to have DMPED, OP, and the Fruman office come and speak to interested community members about what's going on as a way to educate everybody about what is transpiring at the Civic Corps. We went over what the committee group on budgeting handled, but a couple important things to note there that came up in the ZDD meeting is that there is a cut to the Housing Development Trust Fund, which doesn't mean that money couldn't be used to get affordable housing, but it does change the dynamic. At least some people think so. So that's something to note, and that the funding was the same for just the community center and the library, which that group spoke to. There was real deep, I think, from Commissioner Gosling, a real apology for not getting this hybrid situation worked out. We're doing our best with that. We totally understand the frustrations with people who weren't able to be at the meeting. We did have a good in-person turnout, and there were a variety of views on how to go forward. Robert Gordon was there at the meeting, and folks may have seen on the listserv, he's got a meeting coming up. And as Commissioner Sherman mentioned, there are people that would like to abandon the housing component, but there are still other people in the community who are steadfast in a desire to see substantial units at the site. And there are folks in the middle who would like to see a middle ground of some units, but not a tremendous amount of units. So there were folks all over the place in terms of what I think the community desires at the Civic Corps site. And so again, that's why the link group and surveys, and also keeping up to date with this and keeping communication alive with the commissioners and with the ZDD committee is really important. And bear with us, because we are learning as this process goes. I think I covered everything. If anybody at the meeting feels that something was left out, by all means, let us know right now. It is hard to keep track of this stuff, but I think we're all doing the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you. And then also just a reminder that ZDD, like the other committees, have a committee page. And things might not get posted up there within, 24-hour period, but we will do our best to keep all the letters, videos, and all that information posted on the committee page. So that way you'll at least have historical reference and everything located in pretty much one spot where you can go back and look at it.
Chair Gore, could I just make another quick comment? And I appreciate Commissioner Lynch, everything you've indicated and said, and that there are lots of fast moving developments that folks could not have foreseen. So it's a lot to manage, I understand. Here's kind of a litmus test just for me as a commissioner with my constituents, whom I feel very close to, having gone through a campaign where I spoke to hundreds of people. I on this particular issue, on all the other major issues in front of us, I don't want to be in a position where I would look one of my constituents in the eye and have to say, we didn't give you an opportunity to weigh in. Now, I know that not everyone's going to attend a meeting. I totally get that. And I know that the outreach efforts that we have undertaken in the past and that we're currently doing are always to the best of our abilities. What I'm asking us to do in this particular case, given what you just mentioned, Commissioner Lynch, and previously Chair Gore, about ZDD's efforts to do surveys, is to enable every single member of our ANC to have an opportunity to weigh in somehow, some way on this. And a survey that is distributed across the board can achieve that. So that when I go back to them, I can say, you had an opportunity, we did our best to educate you, we gave multiple opportunities for in-person participation, Zoom participation, and we also surveyed everyone to try to capture everybody's views on this matter. Because I think that's what we're about, capturing the neighborhood voice. That's what our mission is. And there are multiple ways we can do that. And on these big, important issues, I think we just have to make every possible effort to reach out and touch everybody.
So I'm assuming you walked and talked your SMD when DMPED just did its survey. That was one opportunity. We need to work on getting that information back. But I think we're beating a dead horse here. We said that we are going to work, and that's what the charrette group is working on, is doing a survey. So we need to let them do their work. And just keep in mind, we don't know what the survey is going to come out and say. I have not, in my SMD, had a lot of pushback on some of the issues that I think people think are going to find a lot of pushback. We don't know what the survey response is going to be. But when we get there, we will do the best we can to have a transparent, good survey that asks forward thinking questions. I don't think, as the commission has said in the past, we're not relitigating issues that we've already relitigated. If commissioners want to change the direction of the commission, then you need to offer resolutions to do that. But we're going to proceed forward in the path that we set as a commission. And we have always, I really don't want anyone on the call to be under the impression that the commission hasn't done these things and hasn't listened. We have. We listen to everyone. We listen to everyone's views that shares those views. But in the end, we're going to make a decision. And when we make a decision, as in this case with the Civic Corps coming up, there's going to be also additional opportunities to make a decision. One group is going to be unhappy. And that group is going to say, we did not listen to them. But we listen to everybody. And we come out with the best decision that we have to stand by. And that's the way we move forward. There's going to be plenty of opportunities, not plenty, I should say, but other opportunities to go back and talk about this issue. We're going to have to come up with a resolution when the surplusing hearing before the council comes up. So we want to, as you said, and what we have been working towards and continue to work towards, is getting that engagement out there and making sure the community interacts with us, shares their opinion, that we have meetings. We're trying to work with DMPED to arrange a special meeting, and we're continuing to do that throughout this entire process. It's not going to be one special meeting. There will be plenty, and we will take that community feedback into consideration. We've always done that. We've done that on all of our issues, and that's what we're going to continue to do. Commissioner Lynch, then Nash, then we really need to move on.
Thanks. Just real quick, this came up, I think, with somebody else's comment, but just so everybody's aware, the members of the ZDD have all sorts of varying ideas, opinions, and concepts of where this will go. So the members of the ZDD are not uniform on how this project will turn out, and I think are fairly representative of the diverse viewpoints within the community. And so just to reassure everybody that it is not a committee made up of uniform minds. Everybody's got a whole lot of different views on this, and I think that's healthy for the discussions that we're having. And to your point, Commissioner Sherman, we are absolutely hearing for everybody when they weigh in and taking that into account.
Commissioner Nash?
Yeah, I would like to second what Commissioners Lynch and Gore have said. I think we are doing a great job of reaching out, and we're behind schedule. I'd like us to move on to the next task force, please.
Thank you. And you're correct. Thank you. Racial and Social Equity Standing Committee. So race had a meeting. I was not in attendance at that meeting because I had some family emergencies that occurred. If there's anyone from race that would like to give the committee report, raise your hand, and feel free to take 5 minutes to give the brief report. If not, we'll update everyone on the next meeting, and we're definitely working to get that video link. And Commissioner Nash, I got your email on the problems with the link. I'll work on that tonight and tomorrow and see if I can get that working for you. I'm not sure what the issue is on that. Okay. Murray Project Task Force, are any of the co-chairs on that task force here? If you want to give an update, please raise your hand. If not, we'll do the update at the next meeting. Okay. So that's it for committee reports. Commission business, Commissioner Nash.
Yeah, I don't think the 227 meetings are quite ready. I did send the last one around, but I'm not sure everyone's had a chance. I mean, there was just had to add Zach's 2-paragraph thing, but otherwise we can vote on that at the next meeting, and I will be getting out the 313 meetings to you now in the next day or two, because they're done. I just was waiting for this to happen. For the 227s to be put to bed.
Got it. Okay. Commissioner Ferguson?
Yes. So I have 2 expenditures to discuss as treasurer. I'll bundle them for one vote unless we want to discuss and vote separately. But the first is a reimbursement to Stephanie Van Pelt for $540.39. Stephanie Van Pelt is a former ANC administrative staff a couple years back, and her credit card was still on the GoDaddy, the ANC's GoDaddy account. She was charged about $200 for our web hosting services, and I noticed she was also had some other unreimbursed expenditures for the ANC on that account. We have the ANC3g.org, we have ChevyChaseANC.org. These are the GoDaddy expenditures for that. So I'm requesting $540.39 to reimburse Stephanie. And the second matter is a Verizon bill, which is due April 2nd. It's $166.96. I'm requesting approval to pay that with a debit card so we can avoid the tedious check reimbursement. And I think hopefully we can get an administrative meeting and talk about the Verizon bill. That's a whole nother discussion. But that'd be useful for the next admin meeting. So unless anyone wants to discuss the GoDaddy reimbursements to Stephanie Van Pelt or the Verizon bill, my motion is to reimburse Stephanie and approve to pay Verizon on the debit card.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Okay. And Zach, do you want to discuss the administrative assistant announcement and pay?
Sure. Sure. So we, for a long time, this ANC has been without paid help, an employee or a contractor, and we've been for a long time hoping to hire one. So we have a job description. And at this meeting, we're going to be at this part, we'll be talking about what we envision and approve and vote on whether or not we want to move forward with this process. So we're looking for an administrative assistant who would be paid. Right now we have it at $23 an hour for between 10 to 20 hours a week. Let's see, and I'm proposing that the term would go no longer than January 30th, 2025. That would be to the end of this term plus a few weeks to help the new commission. I'm also I believe we have a majority of commissioners who'd like to do it, hire them as an employee rather than a contractor. Let's see. I think we've all talked about how much help we could use, on getting out, treasurer and secretary minutes, website. We have a lot of things that we could really use assistance with. We even have decades of files at our ANC office that could be digitized, or, we have plenty of things to do for admin help. So this is the reason behind it. And I would also, we can maybe discuss this later, but I would recommend we, well, I'll vote for this separately, but a payroll service, because we are not, I'm not versed in overseeing and hiring a full-time or a part-time staff and paying their, payroll taxes and overseeing that. So I'd recommend we also hire paychecks if we're going to be hiring a part-time staff.
Oh, go on.
I think I think that's what we need. Oh, let's see. Don Dickerson at ONC mentioned we should address the withholding. Let's see. Okay, I think that's all I have for now. We want to discuss this potential allocation of ANC funds.
Yeah.
So I hear I have the it would be a estimated federal tax withholding of $722 per biweekly pay period. I'm proposing we do a biweekly payment. I'd also propose, so Paychex has given me a quote for this. It'd be about a little under $60 per biweekly pay period for their fee to provide, an employee handbook, to take out the right taxes, to make sure we're following all DC laws on hiring.
I'm sorry.
So I think that's what we need in our discussion to approve properly to start the process of hiring. We would have a hiring committee, and among ANC commissioners, we would, post a job application publicly, get as many resumes as we could. So those would be some of the next steps we would take. Do we have any discussion from the commissioners community? Let's start with commissioners, Jim.
Yes, Zach, I had a little trouble hearing you because the sound fidelity, at least on my computer, isn't all that great. But part of this, what you're proposing is that we pay paychecks $60 per pay period. Is that, did I hear you right?
That's right. That's their fee for providing payroll services.
Okay. And that's a fairly high fee and it can add up, although I understand why you want to do it. Do you know, is this standard practice for other ANCs to hire paychecks for this?
It was actually recommended. The OANC recommended we hire payroll. Was their recommendation.
Okay.
And yes, it's about $1,300, I believe, a year. You know, it's if you do weekly payments, it's $1,900. So this is a little more affordable to pay someone bi-weekly rather than weekly.
And Zach, what was the bi-weekly pay amount you're suggesting?
So I had it when we emailed around, it was $23 an hour.
Okay.
OANC had suggested we couldn't pay more than $25 an hour. That I hadn't seen that in like a handbook or anything, but just in an email, I'd seen that.
That we could not pay more than 23 an hour?
That's right. But then I heard another ANC pay more. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's accurate.
I definitely think there's some ANCs out there that pay more, but
Yeah.
that's fine. Okay. And then this is part-time. We're thinking part-time. Did we all agree
Right.
on that?
Between 10 to 20 hours. We sent around internally, you know, the job description. I think Lisa drafted that and updated it from last year. It just, you know, outlines the job descriptions, the hours, and the pay.
Yep. Okay. So commissioners, are we ready to move forward on this?
Yeah.
Okay, Zach, do you want to kind of put a motion on?
Right. So my motion is to, as we've just discussed, allocate money from our budget to hire a part-time employee for between 10 to 20 hours a week for a pay of $23 an hour. And additionally, hire a payroll services company up to $60, per biweekly pay period. That's my motion.
Okay, I second.
I third.
All those in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Zach, can you remove?
Yeah, look.
You got that person?
I see everyone muted except for the commissioner, so I'm not quite sure where that's coming from.
I'll watch it one more time. Okay, so items for the next meeting, which will be April 24th. Actually, there may be one other thing that we needed to discuss in terms of the calendar, Zach. The date that was, I believe, another religious holiday.
Yes. Yeah, so I wanted to make a motion to, previously we have September 25th as a meeting date. That conflicts with, it's on the Yom Kippur Jewish holiday. So I wanted to propose a motion that we amend our meeting calendar to not have a to skip the meeting on September 25th.
September 25th. I second. All those in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Okay. So for the April 24th meeting, potential discussion items include Whittle School, DC water update. I invite